Well, we continue to highlight the ways that people and organizations made it work during the pandemic. So this morning, we visit the studios of our news partner, Cincinnati Public Radio.
Chances are you recognize this voice.
Good morning. It's a minute before 10 o'clock. You're listening to 91.7 WVXU. Rain continuing through the day.
For the last 16 years, Mary Ann Zalesnik's shared stories on the airwaves of 91.7 WVXU. And man, year 16 spun quite the tale.
We really, as most people did, turned on a dime on March 13th and said we are going to figure out a way to work from home.
As closets became workspaces for some, Mary Ann carried on in the studio and helped maintain consistency.
So on Twitter every morning, I started saying, it's Monday, it's Tuesday, whatever. And people were stopping and calling and saying how much that helped them figure out what day it was.
As listeners' daily habits changed, no longer dialed in during commutes or coffee breaks,
we had to adjust a little bit of what we were doing. We made sure that we did a lot online that people could access that way.
Fittingly, that was also the way they asked people to give to that staple of public radio, the fund drive. But times were tough, and asking for money as thousands lost jobs was a big ask.
There were plenty of people that were not in a position to give, and we were very open about that on the air. If you can't, we get it. Listen for free. Somebody else will back you up. And that's where we asked other people, you come through for them. You do your part.
They did, slowly at first.
It's the first time we did a fund drive during the pandemic. There were no pledges from 7 to 8 in the morning. And that was a long hour. That was, I thought that would be what the rest of the drive would be like.
But it got better. And Sherry Mancini, Vice President of Development, tells me something they started a decade ago, the Sustaining Membership Program. About 11,000 people who donate $5, $10, maybe more each month help the station stay on air.
We still had that monthly revenue from sustainers, so that made a huge, huge difference for us.
The other difference, for safety, was no volunteers.
It's quieter, but it's also that sense of community is kind of compromised a little bit because normally we're all working towards the same goal. It's not just the fund drive goal, but kind of supporting public radio, and we're here as a family, and that went away temporarily.
Now, Cincinnati Public Radio looks ahead to September, planning for the next fund drive as a bit of a family reunion and a story about change to be continued.
Something may come your way you're not planning on, but you know what? We are way more flexible than we give ourselves credit for, and I think that's what the pandemic proved.
Well, one way that Mary Ann said she was able to get flexible was over the holidays. Normally, she would bake a bunch of cookies and bring them in for the staff there at WVXU. And this past year, though, she and her husband drove more than 100 miles all around the tri-state in order to deliver them in person instead.